If you are a worker, if you're in the working class and you make money, you make a paycheck, and you want to preserve the purchasing power of that paycheck. You don't, because otherwise every single year the purchasing power of that money that you're paid in, that fiat money, goes down. You go to the grocery store, it takes more dollars to buy the same basket of goods because they keep printing it. If you want to protect yourself against the inflation, you got to do so, and Bitcoin is an excellent way to do it. The government is basically is dysfunctional for a lot of reasons. You can get into it because it sits on top of paper money that's garbage. So, change the money first, and then you'll see incentives within the economy change. You'll see the politics change. You'll see people's attitude change. You'll see a lot of things change if you have Bitcoin as the standard, which is real money that audits itself every 10 minutes. It's self-auditing every 10 minutes. Every transaction in the entire Bitcoin history is audited. And this goes on. TikTok new block. That's essentially what a block is. It's the result of auditing every single transaction that's ever occurred ever since January 3rd, 2009, and it's totally transparent. Anyone can see it. So swap that out for fiat dollars, for paper money, and then you have a substantial change in the economy, as well as everything connected to the economy. And you have the Bitcoin community are a community of savers, not a community of spenders. That's very different. I grew up in the 80s, so it was always about 70s and 80s. So it's always about shop till you drop, conspicuous consumption, lifestyles of the rich and famous. If you talk to Bitcoiners who are in their 20s and 30s, they're like, I'm selling my chair to buy more Bitcoin. I'm frugal because I want more Bitcoin. Now think about that. Ben Franklin said a penny saved is a penny earned. You can't have a working economy. You can't have a capitalist economy without capital, and you can't have capital without offering people a return on their savings, and you can't have a return on your savings with interest rates by the Federal Reserve are zero. Interest rates at zero or near zero is essentially an act of financial terrorism. I'm not trying to be glib here. In my view, it's an act of financial terrorism for the Federal Reserve Bank to keep interest rates down to where they are, near zero. That's saying the value of your work is worth zero. The value of your savings are worth zero. Your value is zero. Okay, that's the message from the Federal Reserve. Okay, are we as Americans going to take that? Are we really going to take that insult? I mean, that's outrageous. If you study, Marxism and the Communist Manifesto and the history of communism, the problem is that the people in the control, the people at the top, are always finding new ways to subjugate and suppress the working class or the underclass. And this is done in America and around the world today in our modern era, using the power of the money, of the printing press. Going back to Reagan, which is really a seminal moment in this whole history of this, when he fired the air traffic controller. That was the end of organized labor in America to a large degree. And the financiers on Wall Street figured out that when if we deregulate capitalism, let's call it, financial capitalism, because we live in a world of financialized capitalism, of banks who control much more than, let's say, the capitalism of earlier eras, which were driven by factory owners and landowners. The capitalism today is financiers and financialism, and so we look at that and we say, under the Reagan era, there was this period of deregulation, and what that brought us was a way for bankers to print money in a market that was just starting at that time, called the derivatives market.
Before we continue, help us by smashing that YouTube like button and subscribe now to this channel. This shows the algorithm that you value the information, and it helps us spread this message. Sharing is caring. Please like and subscribe now. Thank you. And now let's continue.
The derivatives market is just an expansion of credit into these incredibly stretched layers of debt upon debt upon debt, and to do that in a way that didn't touch labor. So although the money supply in America has gone up hyperbolically for decades, wages have stayed flat. Back in the 70s, as late as the 70s, before Reagan, you would have wage price spirals. If they printed too much money, it would show up in wages. So actually in the 1970s, there was inflation, but wages were relatively high. And so the working class was actually having a bit of a boom at that time. And Wall Street was crashing. And Main Street was actually doing well because they were benefiting from those higher wages. So under Reagan, that was crushed. And you had this period that we're still in, which is you've got accelerated money printing, but it doesn't hit wages. And so now we're in this situation where the question is, if you're a working class, and, first of all, who are we fighting against? Like, who's the enemy in all this? Is it ideological? Is it political? So, I would posit that the enemy is the guys printing all this fake money, because somehow when they print a lot of fake money, it ends up going to the banks, and then it kind of stays in the banks. The banks don't make the loans. They're not making loans. And they end up just giving it to their friends who are buying penthouse apartments on Park Avenue or Hamptons Estates or fine art, et cetera. So it's a problem of distribution. And this is called the Cantillon effect. There's actually an economic term for this in terms of how money that gets printed is not distributed. And we know it for a fact. If you look at something called the money velocity chart, it shows you how fast money is circulating. So all this money printing that we just talked about, well, how fast is it circulating? How fast is it getting into the workers' hands? The answer is that chart is almost at zero. For the last 20 years, it's gone straight down. It's not circulating. They're printing, but wages aren't going up, and that's the divide. So if the question is, why isn't this money circulating, and why are workers not being paid a living wage, and why are workers can't make ends meet? It's because the money itself, this fiat money, it is being printed in a way that is great. If you're a friend of Wall Street and you're getting billions of it at 0% interest, you're making out like a bandit. You've got assets that are going up in value, and you can borrow against those assets at almost 0% cost and buy more assets, right? So the problem is, for the working class, the problem is the central bank. That's the problem. And so the people on the left, the people in the Democratic Party, the people, the woke folks, the AOC, they're not talking about the central bank. They're not talking about the central bank. As a matter of fact, they're talking about they need to print more money. Right? They're saying we need more debt, more rent relief. We need more of this. All that money printing is just, you get a little sugar high, but it causes inflation, and you lose in the end. You're going to lose more in the end because the cost of food and energy is going to be higher than the sugar high of getting that immediate stimulus check from the government. The government check doesn't mind sending you all this funny money because they're the ones who are buying the assets that are used as collateral that they can use to build these enormous portfolios.
What to do in such a situation? Inform yourself and keep your financial education strong. We from the Compact Group offer our loyal subscribers a free educational portal with first-hand monetary, financial, and economic knowledge. Enter our invite-only Insider Club by clicking the link below. You will get access to first-class information far earlier than the rest. We have prepared a special deal for all our members where you can access a giant pool of Robert Kiyosaki's financial wisdom for just $1. To find out more, simply click the link below and join our Insider Club absolutely free. But there is more you can and should do. Build up several streams of income. More and more people realize that they have to take their future in their own hands, but they don't know how and where to start. We from Compact offer our Insider Club members unique opportunities. Strengthen your financial muscle and get the edge. Click the link below. Become part of our free Insider Club. No financial obligations. But there's one important thing you have to know. You have to become active. So do it now. Become active and see you on the other side.